All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on this glorious Thursday afternoon. It's really pretty outside despite it being absolutely hot and murderous out there. We are incredibly excited today to bring you three wonderful ladies from the Green Lab. They're going to be going over branding principles, how to pivot in a time like this, how do you really maximize, your content, how do you really drive business growth forward. The Green Lab's been around for a long time, out of Geekdom. Former members left, came back. They're doing all kinds of cool things and pivoting. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to the ladies so they can introduce themselves, give a little bit of background on their company, what they do, and then get started. So with that, take it away.
Hey everyone, again, thanks so much for, allowing us to come on here and speak on behalf of not only ourselves, but our experience through all of this, as well as, some of the insights and struggles that we've gone through that really helped us put together the brand and share it with you all. It's really important. My name's Christy Kay. I am a creative director here at Green Lab Inc.
I'm Audra Wise. I'm currently the operations director. I started as an intern, worked my way up to social media coordinator, and then all the way through the ranks to operations director. So it's been a great time with me.
Hi, I'm Ina Gomez. I'm the lead graphic designer here, and I'm having this great, amazing, fun projects. Just having fun over here at the Green Lab.
So part of the reason why we wanted to hop on here and kind of present, we could have gone towards multiple topics, right? We do a lot of media marketing and a lot of branding. That's kind of, our main, avenues of our services. But we felt like branding was most important, not only because of, for any startup company or even, whatever journey or avenue you're in your business right now, like branding still plays a major role. And we do feel like it gets forgotten sometimes, because when you're trying to run a business, when you're, dealing with multiple departments and people, it kind of gets lost, right? And so, not only that, but we also had to go through a major rebrand. And so, we have our reasons for all of that, and we'll dive more into it. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the presentation. We also created a workbook that kind of started all of it, and we shared it with Geekdom to be here. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Fantastic. While that's getting set up, let me make sure that everybody understands while the ladies are presenting today, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in our social media chats on Facebook Live or on our YouTube channel. We'll make sure that they get anything that you need to have answered. So let's get into it.
Awesome. Can you guys see my screen okay? Yes, perfect. So yes, part of the reason I think it's really fun and the reasons why I grabbed the ladies of the team to kind of be here is we're really big on communication. So if you guys do have any questions, super important, feel free to ask them as we go along. We definitely want this to be very much of an interactive presentation. And a lot of this is, going to be spoken more on behalf of, our expertise and our experience. So on that note, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Green Lab and kind of some of the changes that we've had to implement. So, the Green Lab in itself, to make a long story short, went through a lot of phases. We did start out as a cannabis exclusive company. We worked with a lot of CBD and THC brands. And so because of that, we had to focus a lot more on our online experience for our clients, because we worked with people in Cali, Colorado, Oregon, and even Texas for some of the CBD brands. But, as time went on and development of the Green Lab really kind of, started to morph and build on each other, we went from cannabis exclusive to cannabis focused, and now we are, open for all. Just because we were cannabis focused didn't mean we work on people outside of that, but we also didn't want to let go of our roots for it, because it's really hard to find companies that know the limitations of CBD, limitations of THC. We were really big on market research back then, as we are now. So we definitely felt like a rebrand was needed, and we can get more into that later. But, we truly market ourselves as a brand cultivation company specializing in brand building and media creation. we understand that we are an extension of our clients, as, both marketing and media aspects of everything, but definitely when it comes to our talent in-house, it definitely evolves more on bringing our clients' visions to life. So we're going to be hitting a couple of topics today. They're going to be along the lines of knowing your narrative, right? Determining your why and how that applies to your storytelling. We're going to touch base. Actually, Andrea is going to take the reins for the audience and talk a little bit about knowing your target audience and knowing, how to take that information and adjust it, because obviously data and insights are key for that, because that is your feedback, right? And then Ina's going to go ahead and kind of touch base on media. As our lead designer here, she definitely has to, be able to bring our client's brand to life through her graphic design, as well as just direction in terms of starting to build a brand in general. So those are the 3 things we're going to hit on today, and we're just going to jump right into it, okay? So finding your why. Storytelling is really important when it comes to brand building. Like I said earlier, it's really easy to lose the reason why you started, your business. And that's why it's so important to remember your roots, remember where you came from, the reason why you started, whatever endeavor you're embarking on. And, when you have, again, multiple things going on, when you truly start to become a business, there's more to think about than the product. Now you have to deal with the manufacturer, your feedback, the marketing, and the billing, and all that really intricate stuff that goes into running a business. And so we are here to kind of encourage you to take the time to kind of step back every once in a while and remember your roots, right? And kind of revisit the mission statement that should have been created kind of in the beginning of it all. And whether it was written down on paper, it's typically something that you subliminally and consciously knew was what you wanted to do for your business, right? Because with anything that is, created, there is a reason why. So mission statements are super important. We've worked with clients who, have been in their industry for years and years and years, and then find themselves hitting a wall because they're just like, I don't know what to do from here. And then when we had asked them, well, do you have your brand guide? Can we see a little bit more on the fundamentals of why you even started to do this? They're just like, well, it's somewhere, we have to go find it. Meaning they haven't looked back on it since the beginning of their company. And that's crazy, because that really is what drives any, business owner to do what they do. It starts out with a passion. It starts off with wanting to solve your audience's problems. And so, whether your mission statement is more fundamental on an idea, we want to create a more eco-friendly environment, and our products are a way to do that. Or if it's something, even more specific and futuristic, where it's just we want to make a community based off of, what we're putting forth, your mission statement should, really hone in on that. And that truly ties into your slogan, or how other people call it, your tagline. So kind of to use ourselves as an example, when we went through the rebrand of Green Lab, it definitely forced us to really look inward, right? To look at our reflection, to look at what we've become. And, knowing that, we did start off in Geekdom. We've been around for, I believe, a solid 2.5, 3 years now. So we're not very, we haven't been in the game very, very long. To me, 3 years seems like nothing. But, a lot has happened. And with any startup company, that is normal, right? And so, we grew really fast from Geekdom. We had, jumped the gun and went into a really large, corporate building. And we were hiring on people left after right. And it really, not that they were distractions, they were all necessary, right? When you're trying to grow your business, those decisions and matters are important. But without taking the time to truly think about, why are we here? why are we doing this? Who is this for? And who are we helping? It's really easy to lose sight of why you were there to begin with. So, when we revisited, our mission statement and, kind of looked back at the team, and it was just like, well, what do you think our mission statement is? And then you have 4 different people say completely different things. You're already not in the right realm to move forward, right? Like, that is so important. So we definitely had to kind of, huddle together and really think about, what it is we're here for. And that kind of goes back to, our creativity. It goes back to our media talent. It goes back to wanting to solve our client problems and truly think about our relationships with the people who we work with, right? And it's just the same concept for whether you have, a product like a retail, right? Whether your product or a service, it still falls along the same lines. If I'm selling, I don't know, jars of jam, right? It's just like, why am I doing this, right? I'm not here putting peaches in a jar for no reason, right? But maybe it's because, most jelly and jams out there aren't healthy and they have way too many, harmful chemicals, or it's too much sugar. And I'm trying to, provide an alternative to what's accessible at a competitive rate. So, it definitely kind of makes you backtrack and think about the reason why you're there, and kind of going back to the tagline, making sure that it's coincide with your mission statement. So kind of going back to us, we wanted to focus more on media, these progressive ideas that we wanted to offer to our clients. And so we were just like, well, we are at the Green Lab, and the first thing that comes to mind with that is plants. And it's kind of a nod towards our cannabis roots, because those are obviously plants as well. So we wanted to, play along the lines of like growing brands through creativity. And with that, we've been able to create and use that as a motivation to think outside of the box for the things that we do when it comes to advertisements, aesthetics, when it comes to creating anything that's even for us or our clients. We wanted to put a standard called, like, would I stop scrolling to look at this? And I think when you really hone down to, your mission statement and tagline, it's so much easier to modify what you're doing, modify your messaging, and modify, who you're really trying to market this for, which definitely leads into your target audience. And like I said, we've definitely pivoted, and as well as our target audience. But on that note, I'm going to kind of hand this off to Andrea as our operations director, and from her experience from, internship with us to, director, right? She's been able to take her experience through each position and, wear multiple hats for us, which is always important in a startup business. And so I'm going to let her kind of take the reins on that and kind of talk more about knowing your audience.
Well, thank you, Christy, for the introduction. So as she said, I wore multiple hats here at the business. And one of the hats that I wear is target audience research and just market research in general. So I want to start with, I'm sure a lot of people know, but what a target audience is. And it's a particular group of consumers within a predetermined market that you want to target. And so why is that important? So this helps you know, once you identify your target audience, how and where your messaging and your advertisements are going to speak to. So, and it also helps you tell the story in a way that your audience are going to be receptive to, and you're able to match that style with the people that is going to be receiving that message. So this also is beneficial because it helps find out who's truly supporting your business, who are going to be one-offs, and who are going to constantly come back and constantly come back and give you the focus and the attention that your brand needs. And so campaigns that we also specialize in, and advertisement and content are all ways to help appeal to your audience so you can have the attention that your company deserves. And so you're able to have the opportunity to effectively promote your product, your brand, or your service in a way that people are receptive to. So a little bit into the defining your audience. So I'm going to give 5 steps. You could go all day with how many steps you need to do to identify your target audience, but I'm just going to simplify it, and I put it into 5 steps. So the first one is, who do you want your target audience to be? Who do you feel like initially would be that audience. Now, a lot of people always think of it, well, it's my company, my brand, so my product is going to reflect me as well. And that's not always the case. You could always think of your brand as one way, but people always receive things and perceive things differently. So you want to make sure that you build out a character analysis. So what that is who is it? Like, what would this person look like? What would their age be? What would their interests be? How would you talk to them? What would be their favorite method of advertising? So this all helps you get an idea of who you're discussing. Now, it's not just enough to make this character analysis. You then have to, step 2, talk to people. And you have to see if this would be something that would be a good idea. So a couple of ways is you could do surveys. You could ask your friends and your families, like, how would they receive this information if it was presented in this way? There's a couple of online forums that you can do that you build out, again, back to the surveys, to find out what would really appeal to your audience. Another good thing is trend analysis, where you find out what people are talking about, what types of people. So for example, if you want to hit the young adult market, you go and you see, what are young adults into? What are they following? What's their favorite type of music? All of this helps you identify specific ways in which your target audience goes throughout the day. And it helps you with your messaging as well, and where you're going to end up pushing that content for. So a couple of good questions that I like to ask is, what is my audience interested in? What would they want to read? What do they search for in their Google searches? And how can I entertain this group? So then it kind of steps into step 3, which is find the influencers and third-party validation. This is something that we really push, because third-party validation helps have other people talk about your company and give you that boost without you yourself having to say what you're about. So we all know that word of mouth is a very effective advertisement method, where if somebody told me that I love a brand, you're more likely to go to that brand than if somebody distantly told you, hey, I like this product. So that's what we like to focus on in third-party validation. But of course, as we all know, influencers are really big, from micro influencers to celebrity influencers. There's a whole range of that. So you really want to find, again, back to your audience, what would they be more receptive to? Young adults are more receptive to celebrity endorsements, whereas adults are more into micro influencing, where they're going to listen to their friends and family who've actually experienced the product versus a celebrity. So that all goes back into putting in that research to truly understand who you want to cater your messaging to. A couple of other good avenues for third-party validation aside from the influencers is bloggers. You can have expert in the fields that help review your product, print publications and other things of media outlets, and even they call them social media addicts, but it's your everyday person on social media that likes to scroll and that absorbs that information. They would be really good people to reach out to help understand what's going on in the world and what would be good content to push. So with that being
hey, that's all.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so sorry. No, we had a couple questions come in, and I'm not sure if they got addressed yet, but we had some people ask about how do they get access to the workbook you mentioned, and one most recently was, the questionnaires that you mentioned. Do you guys have links that you can provide, or should they contact you? How can they get that information?
Do you want to?
Yeah, for sure. So that workbook, we did put it on the Geekdom Slack channel. I'm not too sure if these people are part of the Geekdom community, but if not, I can also provide a link on our website. And perhaps, I think if you went to greenlabinc.co, that's our new rebranded website. I can go ahead and put it more in our process, or maybe create a banner for you guys where you can download that, and I can do that right after. Just so that it's accessible to not only the Geekdom community, but also people who on the outside looking in, wanting to see more of this workbook. It's pretty simple. It kind of goes over everything that we're talking about, but also from a more brand aesthetic approach, and has places where you can write in like, this is why I'm doing this, and this is who I'm trying to target, and, and has, just a place where you can really centralize your fundamentals of your brand. And then by all means, feel free to, for the surveys, we can provide that information. We can also provide resources and links, but we can also provide that after the fact. Not too sure if it would be best if I just created a link real quick and you guys can post it on your social, whichever works for you guys, but I can definitely put it on the website.
Right. And
no, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
And in terms of questionnaires, it's really good. I want to add that, and it's really good to personalize. The word of the year is personalization in terms of marketing. Everybody, with so many brands out there, it's hard to just be like following the trends. So when you show your personality through your brand, it helps link people to that, and the questionnaire should reflect that as well. And we can provide links, but quick things is SurveyMonkey and Google Forums are really good ad methods that are free that you're able to personalize these surveys. And of course, there's other links that we can provide as well, linking to different questionnaires.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm kind of on that note, data collecting really is the name of the game. And when you have a business, obviously you have multiple avenues that lead to people finding who you are. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, your website, whatever. Some people have, more out of the box things like, eBay and Amazon.
Pinterest is a big one.
And so it's a matter of implementing, you don't have to ask all your audiences, hey, here's a survey, please take it. But it's a matter of just like, maybe creating a poll on your Instagram. That's just like, hey, what do you guys feel is best, this or this? And then, it's all about starting a conversation, right?
Exactly.
And so there's multiple ways that you can do that. But when you're dealing with, whether you're small to medium-sized business, your audience, are basically like, it's your community. And I'm sure that was on your
that's a great segue point.
Yeah, it's definitely about the community. And so there's multiple ways of starting a conversation. So we definitely encourage, to get a little bit creative when it comes to asking these questions and getting feedback. Social platforms are made to do that and just that. So it's like, utilize it.
So to the point of community, that was my step 4, is to truly reach out to your audience and become a part of that community. And so that could be something as simple as subscribing to the blog so you're up to date on that community's trends, joining the networks such as like joining the LinkedIn networks and making sure that you're engaging with them and you're liking their posts so they are constantly seeing your name and that you are somebody that takes note of what they say. And then so that usually helps translate, well, they're listening to me, so I should also listen to them. A big new and push is joining groups, particularly on Facebook. This is something to where businesses are also now allowed to join. Part of Facebook groups, at first it was just people, but now businesses can join. Yes, on Facebook pages and Facebook groups. Now this is important as we're going into a global age. There's a lot of people that are able to make friends over the internet, and you are able to foster a trust with people through the internet. And Facebook groups is a really good area for that. You always join based off your interests and you find that common ground for them. And posting in these groups is really important as, they're smaller, so the messaging is more effective. And if you're somebody that constantly posts and constantly reassuring people and interacting with this group, what you say can bring more weight. So if it's something that you post about your business and a product and you've been constantly interacting with this group and they are trusting you, then they would then put that trust through your product. So it's all about interacting with that community and fostering that trust. And so you can also go to live events and just do networking and talking to people, especially with Geekdom, who hosts tons of events. It's a great place to meet people that are like-minded individuals that could either help you down the road or even buy your product or service. And the big thing is for these groups is obviously create content for them. So if you're in a Facebook interest group such as Game of Thrones and you want to promote your products, put a little Game of Thrones spin on it. And that way it's useful for them, it's interesting, but it also helps with your messaging as well. All tying back to understanding who exactly you're speaking to. And really the last like step in determining the audience is simply advertise to them. Like we've been saying is once you build that audience and you know exactly who you're talking to, put that content for them, put out things, do the polls, and then you're able to then analyze, which is where we're going to talk about adjusting. So analytics are important not only for businesses to help with efficiency and logistics, but it also helps understand who exactly is responding to your message. Kind of going back to what I said before, you can have an idea of who you're talking to, but not talking to them exactly. You may think you're reaching out to one group, but it's actually a whole other group that's completely interested in what you have to say. So data analytics, like content, trends, and engagement are very important to analyze. And Instagram and Facebook, luckily, and kind of LinkedIn, not really, they already have these analytics built in. You can go to the insights on your personal page for both of them, and they help give you a little bit about what's being interacted. Content data analysis is when you go to those insights, you can immediately see, I think on the content page, what posts are being more interacted with, who's liking them the most, who's getting the most comments. And so this is really important because that's going to end up being how you judge how effective your messaging is. So for example, say you're a company that posts two types of photos, one being lifestyle and another being a product and service. And you see throughout the whole time that people are really engaging with your product and services posts and not really the lifestyle of things. It kind of gives a little bit of a message that your consumers are really trusting that information, the educational and technical side of things about your product. So then you would then kind of pivot to that type of messaging where you're going to post more about your product and maybe a little bit more insights on the technical side of things, more so than presenting that lifestyle piece. And just as vice versa, say the lifestyle is getting more attention and not really the products. You wouldn't forget your products, but you would focus your content on that lifestyle. So you're receiving that engagement and people are understanding who you are. And so that's why that's part of like what I do in terms of analysis is I help find that. So I've seen direct, I guess, results from that where we had a lot of like on our old before the rebrand, we had a lot of people really like the legislation information that we would post about how Texas is doing with the cannabis industry, how other states are. So we pushed our messaging towards that because that's what we saw was interacting with our consumers, and we received a lot more engagement and a lot of more positive feedback from that. And of course, when we rebranded, we listened to what people were saying, what they liked about us, what the issues about us were, and we took all of that into our rebrand. So all of this is important to completely understand your audience. So you could build, you message to them, and then you adjust. Now, you don't always have to adjust. Sometimes you can get it right out the door, and you have great engagement, and people love your messaging, but that's not always the case. You know, there's so many people in this world, so being able to analyze things and making sure that your messaging is going along with the audience that you are presenting to is pretty much everything when it comes into finding that creative direction, which I'm going to segue back into messaging, back to Christy and Ina, because they're the experts in that area.
Yeah, definitely, you know, I support everything that Andrea has to say, and it's true, you know, like I said, it's about starting a conversation and getting people talking and, you know, really getting that feedback and data from the people you're trying to speak to. You know, I definitely feel like a lot of business owners have a really hard time divorcing themselves of their beliefs and what they like, you know, from the more creative side. Like we've worked with tons of people who really had a hard time doing just that, right? If you have a team of 4 different people and they're wanting to start a brand together, and these 4 different people are from completely different backgrounds, and one really likes high-end and luxury, and another one likes organic and like nature, and it's just like this is fantastic. And if we were building a brand for one person, it would be a lot easier. But when you're having to accommodate for all, it's kind of like, okay, what's best for your audience rather than what's best for yourself. And so, you know, like that's definitely something that is necessary to kind of go forth and move on to, because it's true, you know, whether you hit it off the bat, who's to say that your audience isn't going to change in 3 months, in 6 months, in a month? You know, it's like you really don't know who you're talking to until you know who you're talking to. And so, you know, it's just that. So when we get more into messaging, we're going to talk a lot more about basically media. And so we wanted to kind of have a nod towards our previous branding and some of the issues that we had gone through, to maybe bring some light to maybe what you're going through, and kind of, you know, how that ends up looking like. It's down one, yes. Okay. Awesome. So it's so crazy to look back on this because it feels like forever, but it wasn't. So with, you know, the Green Lab, I had joined the company November of 2019, and they've been around since, I believe, June 2018. Yeah. Actually, Andrea and Ina were on the team before me, and so, you know, the aesthetics were very, very different to what they are now. We had a very bright neon almost color that print places just couldn't get right. It was just always like, it looked like a highlighter versus, you know, the colors that we actually had. And Ina didn't create much of what our first initial branding was. This was from the very get-go. Yeah. But she definitely helped, before the rebrand, modernize it into that more educational, legislative type side of our previous industry that we worked with. And so, you know, it was really difficult because they were wanting to do 3 different avenues of the Green Lab at once, right? Instead of honing in on what exactly was going to help us in the future. So we had Green Lab Media, Green Lab Marketing, Green Lab Tech. So it's just like, when you put that much on you, and this is more fundamental, I guess, in terms of business, is you really want to focus and grow one aspect of your business at a time, right? And I think a good saying is just like, you know, whether you have, you know, 1 passion or 5 passions, it doesn't necessarily mean you should do them all at once, right? Like the life, people say life is short, and technically, yes, it is. But I mean, like you have all the time that you really need to grow these passions and in the business aspect, these avenues. And so, you know, a lot of our public relations and online presence was Green Lab Media, which had a completely different culture to what Green Lab Marketing was. And then Green Lab Tech just kind of floated around. And so it was so difficult going in to be like, well, you know, who are we? Yeah. And I'm 100% sure that that's what contributed to the confusion. And so when it came to the rebrand and to figure out, you know, the direction that we're wanting to go in and what we really wanted to concentrate on, that's how Green Lab Inc. came to, you know, fruition. We revisited the colors, right? We wanted something more modern. We wanted something that was easy on the eyes and that probably, you know, print places wouldn't get wrong. And so we, you know, went for more of this cool toned, mixed color scheme. Another issue in terms of fundamentally that we had is that our previous logos weren't versatile. There was no horizontal and or vertical option. It was just it, right? And it made it difficult to fit in letterhead or in, you know, just different types of assets, because that's, I mean, I'll have Ina go more into that in a little bit, is you have to have a logo that is versatile enough to be applied to multiple places and directions, right? Because there's still the fundamentals of having a brand and having the consistent business cards, letterhead, brochures, banners, you know, websites. Oh my God, yes. And so, you know, that's super important. So we definitely went that route, figured out our fonts, definitely went more in between the design and tech, right? And kind of wanted to modernize ourselves. And we still paid homage to our Green Lab Marketing and kept to the flask, you know, integrated a plant aspect to it because we are growing brands through creativity. And we really, you know, ran through that. Granted, we did scrub everything from scratch, and it wasn't necessarily because we felt like it was necessary to, in terms of, you know, nothing was really, it was just a little convoluted before, but because we were getting a bit of like so much confusion in terms of like, well, do you guys sell CBD. Like
Yeah.
everyone thought we were a CBD company. It's like, no, we help them market. And it's just like when you have that much confusion, sometimes you really do have to start from scratch. Luckily, we are young enough. We are progressive and determined enough to really do that. So, you know, that's not necessarily the case for what you guys may have to go through. Sometimes it's a slight adjustment. I mean, if you think about companies like Apple and Coca-Cola.
I was just thinking.
Yeah, it's just like they literally changed like from the beginning of their company to now into I don't know how many reiterations of their logo, of their product, of their product packaging. And so it's a matter of just, you know, becoming fresh and staying consistent. And sometimes you do have to take down, if it's that drastic of a change, you do have to take on former logos or aesthetics because it just doesn't match anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of being consistent. Not too sure if there's any questions before we move on. And if not, we can definitely hit on branding. Nope, I think we're good.
Awesome. Moving on.
Perfect. So this is going to go more in terms of me and Ina and our collaboration. In terms of just media creation, right? It definitely starts with a voice, you know, knowing your tone, knowing the direction that you're wanting to go in, and it kind of falls along your narrative, right? Your storytelling, making sure that you are being consistent in terms of what your messaging is and how you're saying it, right? And that, again, feeds into your target audience. And so once you've really figured out your voice, I mean, you can put adjectives to it, and which is what, you know, we did when we rebranded. We wanted to be, you know, our voice wanted to be more modern, knowledgeable. You know, we know the value of our media, and we want to make sure we showcase that, you know, using jargon in the media realm and having this like very almost educational approach to what we do, because there's a lot in terms of the creative industry that just isn't talked about or addressed, you know, especially when you're joining marketing and media. Sometimes there's a disconnect, and we wanted to kind of abolish that, be transparent, and show its importance. With that being said, I'm going to kind of segue into Ina, and she's going to explain more on the design aspects and kind of the fundamentals of people who are, you know, maybe after going through this presentation, you're just like, yeah, I think, you know, it might be best to adjust, right? Based off of everything that we've gone through. So what does that look like from start to finish?
Hi, I'm Ina Games. So a little history about me. I have bachelor's in linguistics. And when I came over to the United States, I went for a completely different area, and I got my associates in communication design from San Antonio College. And now, because with some work experience, some freelance experience, I realized that this is not about creating pretty. This is about telling a story. This is why I'm going for my master's degree in communication at UTSA, to be able to tell the story, to be able to truly convey what businesses are, and challenge, entertain, reach out to their true audience. As I mentioned the story, branding is actually the story of a company. And this is the emotional image, what people think about you, how they imagine you. And brand identity is a visual and sensual aspect of your brand. I'm saying, when I'm saying this, everyone right away imagine logos, email signatures, websites, but there's way more to that. That's company uniforms and the way the social media feed looks and feels like. It's the little jingle, you know, like pa-da-pa-pa-pam, you know, we know who we're talking about. And it coincides with their with what they promote and who they try to reach. It's the greet, hi, welcome to Chili's, you know, all of these things, they make branding together. And speaking of tunes, I know our media team they were working on this fun audio project.
Yes.
That has to match the company we're working with to make sure that it sends the right message. Of course, logo is the big part of that, and you saw the story of our branding. Logo itself can tell a story about the brand. Then the important thing is to make sure that you tell your story correctly, it's perceived correctly. There are a few things one has to keep in mind while branding or rebranding the company. First of all, as Christy mentioned, it's consistency. The way the company culture, the visual elements, the other essential elements, they have to coincide. So your brand is recognized, so you stand out, or you send the correct message about who you are, about the expectations about your company. Then we had a few clients who said, we did CBD and we want the weed leaf on our logo, or we want the big green cross. The logo is not, it represents your what you do symbolically, but it does not have to directly show what you do. There are no cars on car logos. Like you think BMW, you think Ford, there is no car on that. So simplicity is one thing that you have to think about it. The logo has to be versatile. As Christy mentioned before, the logo has to be in good contrast. The website has to be viewed on different devices. If you print something in black and white, the contrast of the logo has to be good to the point where you can still see it when it's in black and white. It has to work horizontally, it has to work vertically. So these are the aspects you have to think about before presenting yourself to public. You have to make sure that your branding is memorable. Your social media feed is the kind, you know, how we say we want to make sure that you stop scrolling for the content. That's what our media team's goal is. It has to be memorable. It has to stand out. It has to challenge. It has to appeal. So if it's a plumbing company, it can be just another plumbing company. It has to be you. It has to be the plumbing company that you that grabs your attention. That you want them to come to your home and fix your plumbing. It has to be timeless. Coca-Cola went through different stages of their development, and they changed, yet we do still recognize their original sign. Yeah. They have Coke sign, they changed the colors on their diet drinks. It's still Coca-Cola, you will recognize. And then do make sure that what you do and how you present yourself is appropriate for your audience. If you think of branding for Toys R Us, it's completely different from branding of the law firm. If you look at our portfolio of the work of Christy and Noel on our website, you will see that different clients have different style of assets delivered to them. Like if it's skincare, it's one look and feel. If it's whiskey, it's a different look and feel. We recently had a client who wanted a branding project. They wanted to have their assets and logo created, and they had previous versions of their branding. And their goal was to work with food, with drinks. And they showed us the logo. I would not drink that. I would not eat that.
It looked medicinal.
Yes. You know, if we want this to be a food company or beverage company, we wanted to make sure that it's appropriate for that kind of business. So it is, it looks appetizing, right? To sum it up, uh, we do believe that the right branding that fits your company's personality, that appeals to your audience, serves helps you reach a lot of goals, and they are from customer recognition to customer loyalty to such things as we don't often mention, but attract the right talent to your company because you're credible, because you look consistent, because you look like you know what you're doing, because you make an impression of the person that has values and the company that has values and promotes those values. With the correct branding, creating the correct look and feel, the emotional perception of your company with the correct branding, it's very possible to achieve.
Yes, that's very well said. Thank you. No, I 100% agree, with and support everything that Ina had talked about. Yeah, branding is more than just a logo. It really does have to encompass your entire look and feel of your company, as well as, its mission and its goals in which it's trying to achieve and relay to its target audience. And so, whether, like she said, whether you're just building your brand or you're starting to transition into a rebrand, you have to, keep these things in mind. And sometimes it's really daunting, right? And we understand that it is as well. This is, stuff that we do all the time. And so when you're dealing with, all of these moving parts, breathe, breathe and take it one step at a time. To rebrand ourselves, it took about 3 months.
May, June,
yeah,
we were contemplating it before quarantine started.
Yeah, we were thinking about it way beforehand, and we didn't
May and June.
Yeah, we didn't really have, it took really long time. Multiple reiterations of the logo, feedback, and yet we're still not done. There's so much that we have to do. We have rough drafts of what our business cards are going to look like, but we need to finalize those. We have a rough draft of what our letterhead is going to look like, but we need to finalize those. And sometimes you just have to make it as you go, right? A lot of us don't have the luxury to spend the time to complete, like, stop operations and completely do everything all at once. So, like, feel free to breathe, right? Feel free to take it one step at a time or as you go. And it's because it's a transition. It's exactly what it is. It's Apple, Coca-Cola, BMW, all these companies did the exact same thing. So
it's a lot of work.
It is, but it's worthwhile, especially when you are finally finished and have all the tools that you need that are relaying a better message to who you're trying to talk to. And that's, that's the main goal, right? It's yes, it's about your company, it's about your brand, but more importantly, it's how other people who you're trying to reach perceive the brand, right? And so, as we kind of wrap up, we definitely encourage, if this is something that you find yourself in right now, something that you've been thinking about forever, you're just like, I just don't know where to start, just ask for help, right? It's really hard to run a business by yourself, right? And it takes more than one person to do everything. And that's okay, like ask for feedback, ask friends and family, ask your audience, do the polls on Instagram, talk to your people on Facebook, go on Facebook groups. Like it's very corny, but the world is your oyster, right? So like definitely talk to people, reach out to experts. It's like it's one thing to ask how your best friend Joe from down the street perceives your logo, but perhaps he's not your target audience, right? Or maybe you're needing something more. Maybe it's I don't know how to make a logo, right? I can't even do that step. It's like, we'll ask for help, reach out to experts, set up an introductory meeting. They're not going to say no, right? It's like, we would never turn someone away if they just wanted to have a conversation, it's the same way as like, sometimes it's as easy as asking someone to go on a cup of coffee and have a conversation. It's literally just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, to wrap things up, it's about listening to your audience, listening to the feedback, really taking into consideration all of the aspects that we talked about today, from your narrative to your audience and to the design of everything. You need to listen. Listening is going to help you divorce yourself from the construed beliefs of what you feel your brand should be. And like I said, yes, it's about the brand. It is your company. It's your brainchild. It's yours. But it's definitely important to make sure that you're putting your consumers, your target audience, the people who you're trying to reach first, because ultimately it's really hard to have a business if you have no one to do business with. Fundamentally, right?
Yeah.
So, on that note, don't know if there's any other questions, but we just wanted to thank everyone. Thank the Geekdom staff for giving us the opportunity to be on this workshop with you all. Geekdom was definitely a milestone for Green Lab. And, we wholeheartedly support all that they do, the resources that they provide to their community, and thank them wholeheartedly, and thank everyone else who attended, and hope that we could, start conversations.
Thanks for listening.
No, thank you so much. It's so great to hear about you guys and how wonderful you are. Thank you for going through such detail. I think this was incredibly valuable information. We do have one more question. So somebody asked, what is your perception of the brand interest between millennials and Gen Z?
Oh, so fun. It's really funny that you guys mentioned that, because, our staff is a mix between both generations. And it's always really great to have diversity, right? People experience different things. People are from different lifestyles. And so when it comes to your perceptions of, it really comes down to who you're trying to target, right? When it comes to the younger generations, you would technically find them more often on TikTok, Instagram.
I was just going to say, TikTok and Instagram are really big for the young audience, because it's the young audience. Just like the new app that they're coming out, Quickbee, it's all about consumable, quick information, entertaining. So if you could do something funny, they'll eat it up. That's the whole premise of TikTok, and why it got so big is because it's small clips of consumable information, because everybody in the younger generation is quick. I need instant gratification, and I need it now. Millennials tend to be a little bit different, while
millennials right now are between between the ages of maybe late 20s going into their 30s.
So beginning cusp of adulthood, where information is a little bit more important to them, while they're still trendy. That's the main difference between millennials and their parents, is while they still do that educational aspect of things, they are still on that other side of, they like it when you make it personal, or video games, and bring in culture. I think is really big for them, is bringing that education and culture together.
Yeah, think about the 90s nostalgia.
Yeah.
Killer.
Absolutely.
But in terms of all of that, I think to kind of truly answer that question, it's the same way that, you are one person, correct? But you talk to your friends a lot differently than you talk to your parents, right? But you're still you. You're not being a fake version of yourself. I don't want to speak for anyone, but normally you're just being yourself, right? You're just another version of yourself. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, if I'm a brand and I'm only to this, then I'm only going to be on Instagram, or I'm only going to build my brand to be for this audience. But perhaps, like I said, you never know who your target audience is until you know who your target audience is. And it's constantly changing, right? The kids now who are on TikTok, they're going to become millennials, or millennial age, right? It's like they're going to grow up is basically what I'm saying. And so, I guess a good example when it comes to I grew up very much in the YouTube community. I I grew up with these people, right? And their content back in early 2000s is a lot different than their content now because they grew with their audience. So it's like never feel constrained, right? Just be versions of yourself in the terms of like your brand, right? Is, you know, the content that you create for LinkedIn is a lot different than content made for Instagram or TikTok. You can, and it's all about, I guess, on that note, word of the afternoon is transmedia, right? Being able to take your assets, your messaging, your content, and being able to translate that across different platforms catered to the audiences most associated with those. And that's where insights play in. And that's when, you know, the verbiage and your messaging play in, from just your captions to overlays. And so it's definitely, it's not black and white, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, everything is ever changing. Everything is not just one way. So be flexible, be innovative and progressive, be fluid. You know, I think that's a really good way of putting it, because brands need to be fluid. You need to be able to change willingly. And if you like, sometimes you really do just need to change. So it's like, there's two sides to every coin, but I hope that overall answered the question.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I think you guys answered tons of questions today. We really appreciate you for your time. This was an amazing first presentation / workshop with you. I went ahead and shared the workbook on the Geekdom Slack channels underneath the events for links for today. But if you guys do want to have any like links created, we could drop it into the comments section on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So that way people can access it there too. If you haven't checked out the Green Lab or Green Lab Inc., please go ahead and do so. They're fantastic. We love having them in our community, and we look forward to future presentations and workshops with them. And with that, ladies, thank you so much. You guys have a fantastic day.